That's right, I see the chat. I see y'all rocking, I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building, you know what I'm saying? Hit that like button, show your love, show your support, you know what I'm saying? This that dope soul, this that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Hello, Nick family. Welcome to the Just Nickin' It uh, show. I guess I like to call it. Me and Uncle Freezie in the neighborhood, going back and forth between each channel. It might even be simulcast today. So we're hoping to do this every week, alternating between who hosts the show. Freezie, how are you? How's it been?
Groovy. Salute.
No.
How you this morning?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I don't know why I don't have my little. There we go. There we go. So listen, I was like I told you, I was sick yesterday. I had clients this morning. I couldn't get the real tough, in-depth questions that I want to get from you. I have a few. I love picking your brain, particularly around NBA offenses and adjustments and things of that sort. You have actually become my go-to guy when it comes to things that I don't understand in that regard. But before I get into two of the questions around specific questions around our offense, what's your overall thoughts on the series? And are you surprised that the Knicks are struggling, so to speak, up to this point, at least in the first two games?
So salute Knicks Nation, and secondly, thank you for having me. Right,
Of
I hope
course.
you feel better because I know this time of year with the weather being intermittent,
Yeah.
unpredictable. We
Yeah.
kind of get in those spaces, especially sometimes we have to run the air conditioner, and then sometimes we have to go grab the blankets, and so it puts us in a weird
Put the
space.
heater on. You're right. You're right.
Especially for those that know, the closer you get to 60, the more you struggle with this thing. So
Yeah. No
trust
doubt.
me,
No doubt.
I have some gravel in my voice right now. I know, right? Salute to the your hardcore supporters, man. Just want to shout them out. But to the question that you ask, I think the struggle is not it's not a challenging struggle. It's more
Mhm.
of a figuring it out struggle. Like for those that for y'all know,
Mhm.
listen, chat, y'all know what it is. It's like when you buy something from IKEA and you just put it together and they come with the instructions and you're like, well, where these extra screws go? That's the type of struggle. I don't think it's a Detroit Pistons have our number type struggle. Right. It's one of those
Really?
things.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just one of
Mm.
those things where we're just trying to figure some things out. Like, hey, where am I gonna be when Cat is toasty? Like when Cat is on fire, where am I supposed to be at? Like, where does Cat want me to be in those situations? Like, how can I play to his strengths? Right.
Mhm.
And like when Mikal Bridges gets a little toasty, like, it's like, where does Mikal Bridges want me to be in these moments? Right. How can I get the ball away from Jalen Brunson and still have him be an active participant in the offense? Those type of
Yeah.
things. I don't think it's a Detroit front office outdrafted the universe and they're on this Oklahoma City Thunder path. I don't think it's that.
Mhm.
And then you couple that with Tom Thibodeau maybe feeling like he's on a hot seat, so he's not willing to be as risky, as
Mhm.
he would be if he felt comfortable. But when you have a guy with Tom Thibodeau's makeup, being maybe on a hot seat, he's not gonna
Mhm.
risk
Mhm.
his job by trying something new and then regretting it by being out of a job. Right. So if any of
Mhm.
that makes if any of that makes sense, I think the struggle is like that first day of ninth grade type struggle and not school is too hard for me type struggle, if that makes sense.
Wow. So So if I'm hearing you correctly, the struggles that we had, if you want to even call them that, hasn't been about what Detroit is throwing at us and how do we figure it out. It's more about the Knicks, not necessarily about the challenge.
I think so, and I came to that conclusion over the past couple of days, looking back on our
Mhm.
offense and defense, right?
Okay.
Because here's the thing: the Knick in the 82 game schedule, the Knicks are going to play a star player probably about 60, 65 times.
Mhm.
So Cade being a star is nothing new, right? That's nothing new. You're going to play a star player about 70% of the time that you get on the court. And I mean a star, not a player on the cusp of being a star or a fringe player getting hot one night. I'm talking about a bona fide star in the league. You're going to play them about 70% of the time. So the fact that we playing against Cade Cunningham is not something that the Knicks have not seen. I mean, we play in the
Okay.
toughest division in basketball, right?
Mhm.
And so in my mind, and mind you, I just came up with this. This is like after thinking about what I saw in game 3, right? Looking back to game 2 and looking back to
Mhm.
game 1, is Ron Holland an impact player in this series? Nah. Right?
No.
Is Tim Hardaway Jr. a threat? Somebody that we should be afraid of? Nah. Is Malik Beasley a guy that should be ruffling the feathers of the Knicks? No. Who is Jalen Duren in the grand scheme of things? Is Jalen Duren on that Cat, Wemby, Jokic, Embiid level? Nah, he's not even on Jared Allen's level.
No.
And so in a very long-winded and winding way, my apologies, it's a Saturday morning, I'm trying to get my words
That's
together,
fine.
but
That's fine.
nah, I
That's
don't think the
fine.
struggle, at this moment, in this moment, I don't think the struggle is, do the Pistons have our number? It's more like the Knicks still trying to figure this thing out.
Well, why do you what's taking them so long to figure it out? I mean, I agree with you. I don't think the Knicks' response to certain things have been crispy, so to speak. But for me, I see it more as a response to what Detroit is doing, their schemes. So I do see it a little different. But just going with your point, what's taking the Knicks so long then? I mean, if they've seen star players before. Multiple players on this team have playoff experience. Why do you what are they trying to figure out and why is it taking so long?
Well, I think the key to it is, and this will probably go into a question that I'm sure you're going to ask me later. When your best two players are the best at the things that you require the most on offense, when they have the ball, they can't do that secondary thing because they're the person that does that secondary thing the best. For instance, like Jalen Brunson and Cat are our two best 3-point shooters, right? When Jalen Brunson has the ball, right, that means Cat is the best 3-point shooter off the ball, right? So that tells you off the rip that it's gonna be difficult to get Cat 3-point shots in a spot up situation after you start running your offense, because at the same time, in that starting unit, he's your best screener, right? So
Mm,
if he's your best screener and your best 3-point shooter and your best driver, that limits you to the type of offense you can run, right? Because if you require him to screen, right, and you need a roll man and a pop man, and Cat is all of those things, then now once you run the screen and roll with Brunson and Cat, and the defense knows this, then they'll blitz that thing and defend that thing and force the ball out of Brunson's hands, right? Or play an exotic defensive scheme where they'll put a small man on Cat, right? Knowing that when Cat puts the ball on the floor, that a big man can come from the weak side or the strong side, depending on where he is on the floor, to double. And so that puts you in a situation that's, okay, now I'm depending on off-ball offense from Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges. And we just have to figure that part out.
Right. But I think those guys are capable. I mean, I do agree with you that Brunson and Cat are our best 3-point shooters, but the others aren't slouches other than Hart.
Yeah.
So, if they do blitz, Brunson get the ball out of his hands, and it's in Cat hand and they rotate. I mean, they should be able to find the the open guy. I think that Detroit has been um better than advertised, perhaps. I had the Knicks winning this series in five. I knew it was going to be a physical series. My questions coming into the series was about the Knicks' mental makeup. If they had a lead, can they maintain that bend don't break? And if they were out of a game, can they get themselves back into the game? That was the question I had for the Knicks coming into the series, and they answered it in game one, and frankly, they answered it in spades in game three. I was also concerned in game three about how they would handle the crime. Like, I don't have a good read on the mental makeup of this team. Right when I think I have it and they're there, then they'll do something that's be like, wow, maybe they're not, mentally there. But they showed a lot, um in in game three. Do you think that they have it all figured out right now, in terms of what they do best, how they can be their best selves? I'm not sure what else Detroit can do. I do think the Knicks are the more talented team, but being a more talented team doesn't mean anything if you're not using the talent, if the talent doesn't fit, if you don't have chemistry. Like, just talent alone is not going to do it. But talent optimized, yeah, will get the job done. Do you think the Knicks close this series out in five? And specifically, what do they need to do in game four to even have that chance in game five?
So a few things that have to happen, right, in order for us to even get to uh close in five scenario, respectfully, right? One of the thing in game four, the Knicks have to set the tone in game four, take that Pistons crowd out of the game, right? Because this young, and we call them young, they're not real, they have young components, but they have a lot of veterans on their team, right? That
Right,
team may be more veteran than us, right? There is just their best players are probably on the rise.
right,
The thing we need to do first is take their crowd out of the game because they feed on their energy, right? Right. If we can find a way to methodically, surgically take that crowd out of, just execute surgically and take that crowd out of it, where it appears to the Pistons and their crowd that we can execute what we want whenever we want to, then I think game four is in the bag and game five is in the bag, quite frankly. Right. But if we get into a helter skelter, throwing the ball around, um, turning the ball over, taking bad shots, playing into their hands, I don't see this being a 5-game series. This might be a 7-game series if we do that. Right.
right,
Now, veteran teams like the Knicks, they generally don't do that in long stretches. If they turn the ball over, make mistakes, everybody's going to make mistakes. Everybody's human.
right,
Nobody, we're not robots out here. No matter how bad my internet is, I'm not a robot. I'm a real person. Right. Right. So it's one of those things where as long as we maintain our composure in the face of a loud, raucous crowd, then I can see us as executing surgically and putting this team away. Because I think if we play Knicks style basketball, that's executing in the half court, not turning the ball over, getting on the offensive glass, having a hand up I think there's no way that Detroit can beat us. Now, if we get into that stretch where we start to sub and guys try to do too much, guys try to become heroes instead of being who they are, playing within themselves, then I could see Detroit hanging around and testing us. And that's probably what a veteran team like the Knicks don't want. What the Knicks want to do is put them ahead early, cruise to victory, rest, get off their legs, and prepare for the second round. That's the ideal scenario.
Wow, that is definitely an ideal scenario. Just to piggyback off of what you said, I do agree about the Knicks having to play their game, and the more they can do that, the more it increases the chances that they win Game 4. And it all starts with how they manage the crowd, and taking them out the game, which they did in Game 3 by coming out and getting off to a 8-1 start, or whatever it was. Now the crowd was
Right.
able to get back into the game later on when they went on that when they went up by 4, but that's
Right.
very different than coming out and you're down 15 in the first 6 minutes of the game and having to work your way back into the game. So I thought the Knicks did a great job in Game 3. Detroit is the more desperate team because they do not want to go down 3-1 and they're at home. So I do think it's going to be a taller task and energy wise for the Knicks in terms of the crowd is going to be in a frenzy. But for me, it's about Brunson. It's about every game is different, right? So they may have something different for Cat in terms of trying to take him out of the game. You can't force it. You know what I mean? What are they taking away this game? What do we need to focus on this game? Now, you can argue that they can't take Cat out the game. Okay, that's fine. But if they figure out a way to double team him whatever they want to do, I feel like Brunson has to be on point in his processing, which I thought he was much better um in Game 3 and a hot mess, in my opinion, in Game 2 in terms of his you know um processing the game. So if Brunson is on point because he has the ball in his hands a lot in terms of reading what's going on and what we need on each play, I think we're gonna be fine. I think, Cat also the same thing, what are they giving you? What are they taking away? If they double teaming you, are you forcing it? Or are you finding like basic basketball, things of that sort? And
Right.
Tom Thibodeau, I mean, some of these lineups I don't quite understand. I don't understand the Mitch Hart lineup, and maybe that could be, needing height in the game, needing rebounding in the game, and being willing to take the offensive hit. When Cat
Nah,
is
that's not it.
out the
That's not
game.
it, QB. That's not it.
Okay,
You tell you what
tell
that
me
is?
what it is. Mhm.
That is the bench is giving you such inconsistent minutes that you have to play hard when you wouldn't. Think about in the 3 games you've seen thus far, what has Landry Shamet given you?
Absolutely nothing. And people will argue they don't get enough time, but it could be the other way around too. And that little bit of time you get, what are you showing me to extend your minute? And plus, it's the playoffs. Your starters are going to get more minutes. But go ahead.
Right, right. And so I'll say this, and it's unfair to say. I'm gonna say it, but keep in mind there's a context to it because we don't know what the real answer is. We can speculate based off the small sample
Right.
size.
Right.
One could surmise that if it wasn't for them dumb Landry Shamet campaign minutes in Game 2, we'd be
Mhm.
up 3-0 right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We could legitimately be 3-0 up 3-0 right now. But that stitch of time where Landry Shamet looked like he forgot how to play basketball and Cameron Payne was out there playing like his shoes were too big. We like, come on, bro. Like, if it wasn't for that stretch, if it wasn't for that stretch that gave Detroit momentum, then we could legit be up. So when Tibbs tinkers with different matchups or whatever, he's looking at who's got it tonight and who doesn't. Right? Like who's hooping tonight and who's not. And so is that for me? Thank you. You gonna say hey to Queen B?
Hi,
That's Miss Mocha. She just told you, hey.
Hey, hey, Miss Mocha. She being shy. She don't want to come on the screen. I'm good. How are you?
Come here, girl. All right. All right. Thank you, Miss Mocha. All right. Yeah. So, and no disrespect to Cameron Payne or Landry Shamet, we've depended on them this year. If one could say, if it wasn't for their contribution, then we may not be in this spot, right? Because when injuries happened, guys were in and out of the lineup. Landry Shamet and Cameron Payne, for the most part, were constants. Mm-hmm. So we appreciate their contribution, right? But if think about it, if Tom Thibodeau can sit Cat, if he could sit Mikal Bridges in game, what game was that? If he could sit Mikal Bridges in game 3, right? He can sit Cameron Payne and Landry Shamet and play Josh Hart. Tibbs is basically telling us that hey man, if you don't have it, we're not throwing you away. We're just gonna play the guys that have the hot hand. Your
thoughts though that they only get the first half to kind of show it, because it's almost like, well, this was game 2. I think Cam Payne with those 3 fouls and the turnovers and whatever, like he was so bad, I don't even think he got an opportunity in the second half. In game 3 he did. Just your thoughts on that the bench just gets a really short leash to show where they are that game.
Well, I agree with Tibbs on that, because the margin of error in the playoffs is so thin.
It really is.
Do you really give guys, the guys that get those opportunities to make a mistake and show more are franchise type. OG Anunoby make a mistake on defense. Maybe he gamble and miss and then get a layup. You don't snatch OG out of the game, right? OG has earned the right to be there. But the guys off the bench, you're like, hey, listen, the bench is just as important as the starters, but what we want you to do is just play a consistent brand of, just play within yourself. And if you don't have it that night, we're not going to cut you. We're not going to waive you. We're just not going to play you that night. Right? That's why, in my opinion, that's why you saw some more Josh Hart with Mitchell Robinson and some other exotic lineups, because we're all human, right? Sometimes you're going to have it and sometimes you won't. And so that's going to lead to those weird lineups of Cat, Mitch, and Josh Hart. And you're like, what? But the alternative is bring in Landry Shamet or Precious Achua, who we haven't seen. And so if you're Tibbs, you're like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna play what I know.
Yeah. That's a good point. Just sticking with the bench really quick. What's your thoughts on Miles McBride's play in this series? I thought last year he gave us a big boost off the bench unexpectedly. He came into last year's playoffs with just 5 minutes of playoff experience, and I thought he gave us a good some good minutes. This year, not so much. And for me, it's not just about hitting the threes, right? I get it. He's a guy that he's at his best catch and shoot. He's at his best when guys are rotating, rotating to him, and maybe he has a little space. He's not at his best, in my opinion, when he has to put the ball on the floor. He puts the ball on the floor. He takes more than 2-3 dribbles. I'm like, here we go. I don't know what's gonna come out of this possession. But also, I don't think his defense has been as stout. Now, I get it. They're longer than him. But Deuce is still good at staying in front. If you're going to shoot over the top, you're going to shoot over the top. But he's good at staying in front. I haven't been impressed with the defense this season. I know Ajay, shout out to Ajay, feels like he's a little shook in this series. I'm not sure I'm going to say shook. That's kind of strong for me. But he really hasn't looked like himself. Just your thoughts on Miles McBride's play.
What I would say with the Miles McBride thing is he's been off all season. and I don't know why that is. His numbers are down across the
Yeah,
board. I think maybe his free throw numbers are up, but across the board,
that's
they're
true.
like,
That's
you
true.
know,
We leaning on them on off numbers, but when you look at those counting stats, you're absolutely right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so the thing with Deuce is, I want to play the long game with Deuce, right? Like, hey man, you had a bad season, or maybe you're off right now, but I want to throw Deuce away. Like
Mhm.
whatever it is, we'll figure it out. Clearly the Knicks have faith in him, right? Because if Tibbs didn't have faith in him, he wouldn't be playing. And we know that because when he struggled when he was younger, Tibbs wouldn't play him for stretches. I mean, for like
Mhm.
weeks. But now he's earned his trust. He's in there. And so there's something that Deuce will have to figure it out. And I'm confident Deuce McBride will figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I want to ask you a general question. Like I said, you are my go-to guy when I have questions about NBA offenses and even defenses, but more so NBA offenses. A lot of the I hear a lot of talk about, Josh Hart needs to go to the bench. And you cannot start and get the same amount of minutes. But when I hear um, Josh Hart shouldn't start, I'm what I'm hearing is he shouldn't be getting starters minutes. And I wouldn't say I disagree with that if we had somebody, to put in that position. Personally, I don't think we do. But
Right.
the issue with Josh Hart, is the spacing. We don't have the spacing and how that impacts our offense when he's in there. Every team in the NBA is not playing five out. I look at the top 15 teams, even the top 10 teams in offensive efficiency, and there's a few teams in there, more than a few, who have one, and in Detroit's case, two players who are not spacers. But yet they're still top 15, top 12, top 10 in offense. When we do have spacing issues, well, I guess my question is why can't our offense be somewhat efficient when hard is in the game when I see other teams with non-shooters having a functional offense?
That's a very layered and nuanced question. I'll first start by saying 5-out offense and spread offense is not the same, right? So some teams will spread the floor, but it's not 5-out because 5-out means everyone in the offense can dribble, pass, and shoot,
Correct.
right? Everyone on the floor has a two-way go, left or right. They pass the ball and they
Mhm.
sprint to the unoccupied space to keep the floor spread for the defenders. So
Mhm.
everybody on the defense is basically playing free safety. They're basically playing traffic cop, all 5 of them.
Right.
In a spread
Right.
situation, you basically have a couple of spot up shooters, one guy that can slash and one guy above the Denver Nuggets, right? They'll spread you
Right.
out, 2 guys spot up, one guy that's a slasher, and then a big
Mhm.
above the free throw line that can play at the elbow and find cutters and such, with a guard that can
Mhm.
play off of screens and such. Jamal Murray and
Mhm.
Jokic and Porter and whoever they have as their other shooter, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
My thing is with Josh Hart though, is Josh Hart creates a situation where the defense can dictate to the offense because his unwillingness to shoot. Right. And I'm not saying that Josh
I
Hart is
get
a
it.
bad shooter, and I'm not saying that Josh Hart is a bad player. I think Josh is a great player. He's very underrated as a New York Knick. Josh Hart
Right.
to the Knicks is akin to Boris Diaw with the Suns, where if you have a dynamic point guard, if you have a Boris Diaw that can allow that point guard to play off the ball a little bit, to be an off ball threat every now and then, to catch and shoot and to do other things to shift the
Mhm.
focus of the defense, that keeps your D'Antoni offense intact, right? Josh Hart is a very, very good NBA player, borderline great, right? But in that scenario where he's an unwilling shooter, Now you can put your worst tall defender on him in theory and just have him sag off of Josh Hart so that that player can sprint to double team whoever the other offensive player is when Josh Hart gives up the ball. And that's the reason why you don't get those open looks from three, because OG in theory is a 37% 3-point shooter. Bridges is a 36% 3-point shooter. If those numbers were 40% and you had Josh Hart, then it wouldn't be as big of an issue. But we all know, you've watched games where you're like, if Cat's not shooting the three, if Brunson's not shooting the three, you basically have your fingers crossed, right? On the night that OG is knocking down threes, you feel it, right? But that's not to be expected, right? We don't expect OG to go 4 for 8 every night. We expect OG to be 2 for 7, maybe on nights where he has a defensive difficult,
on nights when he have a
difficult
defense
matchup
okay.
on the other end. You expect him to maybe 2 for 7, something like that. We expect OG to be our defensive stopper, so we don't expect him to come down and be Steph Curry on the other end. That's
Right.
Right.
But Freezie, everything you just said, that part I get. I understand. I understand the challenge. But what I'm saying is, people look at the Knicks top 5 offense. That's for the season. When you look at the Knicks from January 1st, the Knicks from the All-Star break, it's not top 5. It's not top 5.
Yep.
These other teams, so what I'm trying to say is, I understand I understand everything you said about the challenges Josh Hart brings. My question is, how are the other teams able to work around it and we can't? That's my question. How are the other teams able to work around it and still have a top 10 offense? And I'm talking about since the All-Star break, not overall, because a lot of this top 5 is just how we were smoking offensively in
Right.
before the All-Star break, before teams started to make adjustments, before Josh Hart's 3-point percentage kind of came back down to normal. So it's kind of inflating our offensive um, efficiency. I guess my question
Right.
is, how are other teams able to
The
do it?
answer
And
to that is
I guess
easy.
each team is doing it differently. Yeah, go
The
ahead.
answer to that is easy. The other teams have better 3-point shooters than Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. They legit put a rotation of better shooters. It's the reason why Detroit has Tim Hardaway Jr. Right? If Tim Hardaway Jr. is not a saucy scorer, Tim Hardaway Jr. is a knockdown, deadly 3-point shooter, and that's the reason he gets paid so much money. Same thing with Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley is a J.R. Smith type of 3-point shooter, where when he gets hot, he's the best 3-point shooter in the league when he's hot. Right? The Knicks don't have that because on a good night, Bridges is going to maybe knock down 3 3-pointers. On a good night, OG is going to maybe knock down 3 3-pointers, and I mean on high volume, right? And then the other thing about it is Josh Hart is, yeah. They
No, I get that.
And they can't find Jalen. And for some reason, they cannot find Jalen Brunson for a spot up 3, which is baffling to me. Right?
And this is
Brunson's
what I'm
on the
saying.
floor. How do you not find him?
So I get what you're saying. So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's the reason we can't mitigate Josh Hart's presence and how he impact our spacing is because we don't have knockdown shooters around him.
Basically.
Okay, I get that. Okay. But can part of it also be scheme, offensive scheme? Can part of it also be Brunson's can also be Brunson, the point guard? Because I would have to go back one by one, Freezy. I don't think those other teams that are top 10 in efficiency, let's just say even since the All-Star break, knockdown shooters around you know, um whoever their non shooter is. There's just not that many knockdown shooters to go around. Somehow they make it work, you know?
Right.
I don't know. I'm just wondering if there are other things we could do to optimize our offense if Tom Thibodeau is going to play Josh Hart because he doesn't trust the other guys, because the other guys aren't as good, because what Josh Hart brings in other areas outweighs the spacing, because we have guys that can score anyway despite poor spacing, whatever it is. I just feel like we can have, even with Josh Hart in there, I feel like our offense can be a bit more optimized. And we saw that in game three. We saw that in game three against a very good Detroit defensive a defensive team in Detroit.
By doing what though? You mean, and when you mean optimize, are you meaning more efficient in scoring, or you
More
mean
efficient,
getting more shots up?
not game two. Like for me, the difference between game two and game three, Josh Hart played a lot of minutes in both of those games, but our offense looked different, even though he was in the game. So my thing is, I'm not buying the Josh Hart spacing issue for why the Knicks offense struggles. I think sometimes it struggles because Brunson is processing is not great, and he's dominating the ball, and he's not
Right.
taking advantage of the mismatches. I think it struggles sometimes because we don't give Cat an opportunity to draw two to the ball. If you only passing Cat the ball 5 times, they're gonna live with that. They're gonna live with him scoring over the smaller person. You gotta go at it time and time again, so they feel like, okay, fine, all right, we're gonna have to send a double team now. We're gonna have to put our big on him. Now you can start opening up advantages. I get Josh Hart's spacing thing. I don't think that's the number one issue with the Knicks offense when it's bogged down. I guess
Me
is
either.
my long is my long way of pointing that out.
And me either. So the thing is, okay, and so I get criticized a lot for thinking in an old school fundamental way about basketball. It's because I played basketball in high school in the early 80s, and we played a different way. Like when the ball crossed the timeline, we could not shoot unless we passed that ball 4 to 5 times. Right? There was never a scenario where the point guard crossed the half, got a screen, and shot it. Period. Right? You have to pass that ball, cycle through, get touches, make the defense move their feet, things of that sort. I think at times, and this is no knock on Jalen Brunson, because Jalen Brunson is a fantastic player. Jalen Brunson's been here 3 years, and I have him in the same category as I view him as this generation's Bernard King. And I know that's not fair to all the old school people out there that have Bernard King on a pedestal, to say Bernard King is a great, 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 great New York Knick. I have Jalen Brunson in that category. You know, about played somewhere between 200 and 300 games with the franchise. You know what I'm saying? Big time scorer, clutch in the playoffs. The thing about Jalen Brunson, though, is, and I've been saying this for years, when you have a Jalen Brunson, you have to have another guard on the floor to kind of stop him from feeling like he's the only guard on the floor, right? Sometimes you have to put another guard out there with like, hey, hey, give me that ball, man. Stop. You remember, as a matter of fact, I'll give you an example. You remember the year when Julius Randle brought the ball up the floor like 60% of the time? And we're like, Randle, give it to your guards, bro. What? You tied at the end of the game because they make a shot and you telling the guard to take the ball out so you can bring it up. You remember that
Yeah,
the year we lost to
I
Atlanta
do.
in the playoffs? And we was like, bro, just because you the scorer doesn't mean you have to have the ball 70% of the time. I think that's the case with Brunson. And I'm not saying that Brunson is a Kobe level ball hog. But at times you see on Jalen Brunson's face where you're like, JB, come on, man. They pressing you in the backcourt and Mikal Bridges is unaccosted 15 feet away. Just let Bridges bring the ball up the floor. Why you flinging dreads, getting pushed, nudged, going to the side, all this stuff, and Mikal Bridges is walking over there beside you, and you won't give it up so Mikal Bridges can just bring the ball up the floor. You know, we can get the ball up the floor with 18 seconds left in the shot clock, and then we can get into some offense. But Jalen Brunson take it out and their wing he got to work, and then he got to do all this stuff just to get the ball across the timeline with 14. We get into offense with 12 seconds left, and now one person touches it. By the time Brunson get it back, it's 8 seconds, and you already know what's going to happen, right? So
yeah. I mean, we've been doing better in that regard.
Yes.
Sorry, Dad.
Yeah, we've been doing better because a lot of content creators been complaining about it.
You think that's why? Because I see now Bridges bringing the ball up. I'm like, I mentioned this back in the Miami series last year. There's no reason for Brunson to be taking up most of the shot clock to get the ball over half court when he could pass it to DiVincenzo or pass it, in this case now, to Bridges, which we are doing, having Bridges bring the ball up. We're running out of time. I just want to ask this about Bridges real quick, because I agree with you. Having another guard with some size next to Brunson, who can even handle the offense at times, and where Brunson can play on or off the ball, that player can play on or off the ball, would help us tremendously.
Right.
My question to you, can Bridges be that? Why or why not?
I think Bridges showed us that he can be that when in Brunson's absence. When Brunson was out due to injury, if you remember that stretch where he used to play with Deuce and Cameron Payne, and they used to play off ball because Bridges was on ball, right? And so the backcourt in theory was he and Josh Hart with a third guard that was there for tertiary ball handling in case they get pressed or a team threw out an exotic look or something like that. I think Bridges can be that if we allow him to. But remember, these things take time. These things take time. Like, you can't just say, hey, Bridges, this game you're going to do such and such. Nah, you got to have him get into the rhythm of being that over time. Like, have him be the secondary playmaker over time. So by the time you really need it, he's accustomed to being that, like being in the flow and knowing where Brunson wants to be, knowing where to initiate offense with JB on the floor, right? Because you're not going to generate offense with Bridges in the middle of the floor, because we know that's where Cat and JB like to operate from. So when you get Mikal Bridges, in a sense, he has to operate from the side and from the wings and the corners, which is not a bad thing, right? Because it simplifies his decision making. You have half the court. It's two players over there. You're probably going to face a three-man front, right? And I'm not saying they're going to double team. I'm saying you're going to have three defenders on that side. And so you know how you'll know how to operate. If Mitchell Robinson seals his man inside, you know you have to work an angle where you can bounce past that thing to Mitch so Mitch can finish at the rim. And you know you can't throw Mitchell Robinson heaters from 20 feet away because he'll bobble it. So instead of just like trying to seam past everything to a Mitch or a pull-up midi or a screen and roll where there's a backside three open because the tag man collapsed. Instead of those things, just take your time and just figure it out. And when I mean take your time, I mean don't slow the game down. What I mean is stay where your feet are, be in the moment is what I mean. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you say it takes time, I think I agree with you. It takes time, but you have to be put in that position. Like, you have to, like, I don't think it's been told to him, and maybe this will happen next year. It just hasn't been his role. I get that it takes time, but he hasn't even been put into that role as a secondary ball handler. Between Brunson and Bridges, any one of you can bring the ball down. Any one of you can initiate the offense. When Brunson is initiating, Bridges, you off ball, obviously. When Bridges is initiating, Brunson, you're off ball. When Bridges is initiating, we actually have plays for you, Brunson, off the ball. It's just not a big part of the Knicks offense. And I think that, again, we talk about this all the time. This offense, there's a lot of meat on the bone with this offense that the Knicks are not taking advantage of. And I think unless there's limitations on Bridges that we're not aware of in terms of ball handling and being able to initiate an action, then I stand corrected. But if there aren't any issues, I just feel like that would take a lot of pressure off of JB. He needs that type of shooting guard next to him. And it seems to me that Bridges can be that guy.
Yeah, I saw just real quick. I saw Tom Thibodeau run in action for Brunson off ball 3 or 4 times in game 3, right? The Pistons overplayed it. And guess what we did not do? We did not punish them by cutting back door. Because if they have 4, if they have 4 defenders above the free throw line, that means there's one person at the rim level or lower or higher in terms of however you want to see it, right? We ran it like 3 or 4 times. One of them was on an out of bounds play where they forced Jalen Brunson out to about 35 feet, and the defense followed him basically with 2 people. One chased, and the other one came around to meet him to ensure that he didn't get the ball, right? But you know what Josh Hart and OG Anunoby didn't do? They didn't cut to the rim. The inbounder looking at, now mind you, when you're inbounding, you can see the entire half court, right? You can see the entire half court, right? Once you slap the ball and everybody start moving, you see everything. Man, we didn't even attack the rim. But we were so busy trying to screen up top to get Jalen Brunson open. If somebody would have just gone to the rim, right? Now you got OG Anunoby, full head of steam going to the rim on Cade. And you know Cade's not going to foul right there. Because he's their primary ball handler. And if your primary ball handler get in trouble, are you really going to risk losing a game over one basket at the rim? No.
Right. No, you're not.
We just have to take advantage of those things, Queen.
Yeah, we don't, which brings up, I know a lot in the chat, people will say that as talented as this team is, this is a low IQ team. I'm gonna read these super chats, see what you feel about that. If you have any questions for me before we get out of here. Paris Doug, appreciate the super chat. Deuce had DiVincenzo and Grimes pushing him last year. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I never thought of that angle.
Yep.
Paris Doug, appreciate you again, always rocking with us. The biggest issue with our offense is we don't have any specially skilled passers to get guys counter opportunities in read and react offense. What's your thoughts on that? No, I mean, I think when you say specialty pass, because I think all of them are adequate passers. You know, if somebody cuts back door, you can hit them back door. You know, we have players who can hit players back door. In transition, we have players who can make the right pass. I mean, we don't have any behind the back look off type, passers on the team, but like the basic pass within the flow of the offense, I do think we have those guys. I think when our offense was flowing before the All-Star break, that was part of it, because everybody on the court was able to pass, shoot, and drive before Hart came back to earth, I should say. Yes,
I agree. The thing is with the reading, right? The thing with Paris Duggar said, I agree with what Paris Duggar is saying, and we appreciate the comment, the view, and the super chat, man. Thank you for being so active and driving the conversation, man. We appreciate that. I think he's right. The only thing though is in our situation where guys don't shoot they're not deadly 3-point shooters. They need space to shoot threes. So when they get that space to shoot a 3, when you ask Bridges and OG to do that, then when the reaction is there for Josh Hart to hit somebody backdoor, there's nobody going, because if Cat cuts to the rim, the defense is gonna honor that because Cat has gravity. And if Jalen Brunson cuts, they're gonna react to that because Brunson carries gravity. But for y'all, not for your non-gravity folks, respectfully, they're not cutting back door to the rim because their mandate is to take open threes. So, I mean, that's the part of it. And Josh is not going to take anybody off the dribble most times in the half court.
Right. For sure. Do you have a question before we get into last words?
What kind of question is that? I have questions. I'll be here lock, stock, and barrel. So my question for you is, when a desperate home team makes an early run, what keys for the Knicks to stay composed and prevent a first half blowout? So when the Pistons come out with this home energy, right, what do the Knicks do to stay composed in order to stay in the game and weather the storm, so to speak?
So, and I know I'm glitching. I'm glitching a little bit. So thank you for your patience, Nick family. I'm in that deep south on that deep south internet. Um, Freezie, I think, how do you not even get in that situation? I mean, I hear what you're saying. How do you get out of it? But the number one thing is not to get in. Like, it's so important for the Knicks to come out and hit their first few shots, and not get down by 15, if or whatever it is. If for whatever reason they're not able to do that, and the energy is so much, and the Pistons are hitting fall away jumpers and deep 3-pointers, and before you know it, we're down by 10, 12, or whatever it is, you're not going to get it all back at once. You're not going to get it all back at once.
So
It's
you're saying
if you
preventive maintenance, prevent it from happening. You won't have to deal with it.
Number one. Number two, if it does happen, you're not going to get it all back at once. Don't go out there trying to shoot yourself back in the game, because you could just be making it. You could be making it worse, right? Methodically get back in the game. Methodically stay with your reads, see what they're giving you methodically. At some point, you're going to have an opportunity to get back in the game, right? So let's just hope that doesn't happen.
Okay. That was my question. I don't have anything else.
All right. I appreciate you guys, Lady and the Chef, East Blue Drew, DopeSoulSports Rex. It's been a minute. Appreciate you. On Dios NYK, Anthony D in the building. Be sure to catch him and Freezie on
Old school Knicks
Sundays with what's
tomorrow,
the exactly old school Knicks. Old
Sunday
school
at
Knicks.
11. The best, one of the best parts of our week.
Yeah. And I know I don't have to tell you who Uncle Freezie is. The link, though, for those who have been living under a rock and don't know who Uncle Freezie is, the link is in the description to his YouTube channel. Be sure to give him a sub if you haven't already. I'm so proud of you, Freezie. He's nearing 10,000 subs.
We're out of
Right?
baby jail, everybody. We're out of baby jail.
Yeah.
We stopped cussing
Yeah,
and fussing at each other, and look what happened.
Yes, exactly. Long Island Sound, I appreciate you. Listen, Freezie is the hardest working content creator I know. Every time I turn around, he's on with a show. So
Yeah.
that helps.
Hey, may I say something real quick though? Just real
Sure.
quick. Just real.
Absolutely.
Hey. So Ron from Still Knicks Fans is like our baby brother, right? That he's like our baby brother, like the taller, more mature looking baby brother to us. Man, make sure y'all check out Know the Ledge. I think it's coming up. It may be on right now. Man, make
It
sure
may
y'all
be
go
on. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so make sure y'all go check out Know the Ledge, go sub to his channel, hit that like button, comment, do the best you can to support Ron. That's our guy. We trying to, help out as much as we can over there, not just to grow his channel, because this is the thing. Growing channels is fun and things of that sort because it expands the family. And when you look at the number, it's like when every time as a content creator, every time we see the number grow, it's kind of like expanding the family, like meeting a cousin from another city that you didn't know,
Right.
and you see them at like the family reunion or something like that. So, but the key to it all is insight. We like studying and bringing insight to you from a Knicks fan perspective, because we're not journalists. We're bringing insight to you from a fan's perspective, right? And part of it, and we dig deeper into it and the nuanced conversations to expand on what you already know. We try to be a little bit entertaining, But for the most part, you don't get a whitewashed, car wash version, a broad overview of what the Knicks experience is like when you watch Fox or CBS or ESPN or ABC or TNT or whoever. We are you and you are us. And that's part of the reason why we do it, and the reason why we ask you to subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on, hit that like button, comment in the chat so we can see you. And also shout out to the replay gang, because y'all come out in huge numbers.
Yes.
Y'all come out in huge numbers. Y'all may miss the live, but y'all come out in huge. Y'all quadruple, sometimes give us 5 times the audience that we normally get with the live. Sometimes it's 10 times the number. So shout out to the replay gang. Shout out to all the new people, right, who don't know who Paris Duggar is, or Andios, or others that are constantly, in the chat supporting. So you get used to those people because they're stalwarts. They're just as important as the people. L Train, everybody, they're just as important as the figures that you see on the screen. So
yeah, I want to add one other group to that, Freezie, who I meet at live events, and that are those who listen to us that don't comment after the video, and they are not in the chat.
yeah.
So I meet those people all the time. And I'm like, what's your name in the chat? And they be like, oh, I'm not in the chat. So shout out to those who listen to us, and again, they don't comment in the chat or in the replay game, but they know who we are and they support. I always meet those people at the live
trying to buy us stuff
events.
at the concession stand.
So appreciate you.
They stay trying to buy us stuff at the concession. Hey, Uncle Freezie, his card don't work. I got it. They stay doing that. Love and appreciate y'all, man. Love and appreciate y'all.
Yeah.
So
yeah, shout out to DJ Shuttle in the house. I appreciate y'all. What do you have next, Freezie?
I'm gonna take Miss Mocha out for lunch. I'm gonna see everybody in the morning. I don't have anything. Saturdays is usually the day Miss Mocha and I are girlfriend and boyfriend. So, we just ride around town and just do stuff. But tomorrow morning, definitely old school Knicks, 11 o'clock. Your man, the #1 chief rocking Knicks universe, Uncle Freezie, and the man that is so smooth he does not require a chaser, Anthony D, chopping it up Sunday mornings at 11.
Yeah, I'm next on. I'm not even sure. It's the post game. It's either going to be Sunday night or early Monday morning with Geoff. If it's preferably tomorrow night around anywhere between 6 and 9. But if not, definitely Monday morning, 8 a.m. I appreciate you, fam. Until next time.
Sister, you're one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's
shine. DopeSoul.
Where you at?
DopeSoul.
Where you at?
DopeSoul.
What?